He was a peasant, a mystic, a so-called holy man who seemed to hypnotize the entire Russian royal family. This one man, Grigori Rasputin, was rumored to survive poison and bullets, only to watch the empire he held in his grasp crumble into dust. Was he a divine healer or devil in disguise? Today, we are delving into the dark and mysterious tale of the man who held the Tsars under his cursed spell and dragged a dynasty to its ruin. Our story begins in the vast, snowy expanse of Siberia, a land known for its harshness and mystics. From this remote corner of the world emerged a man with piercing eyes and a commanding presence. His name was Grigori Rasputin. By 1905, whispers of his supposed healing powers had traveled all the way to the heart of the Russian Empire, the capital city of St. Petersburg. The royal family, the Romanovs, were desperate. Their only son and heir, Tsarevich Alexei, suffered from hemophilia, a deadly genetic disorder that prevented his blood from clotting. Even the smallest bruise could be a death sentence. The finest doctors in the empire were helpless, and Empress Alexandra, a deeply religious and desperate mother, was willing to try anything. When Rasputin was brought before the young Tsarevich, something extraordinary happened. During one of Alexei's bleeding episodes, Rasputin simply sat with the boy, prayed, and spoke in calming tones. Miraculously, the bleeding stopped. Whether it was through hypnotism, a calming presence that lowered the boy's blood pressure, or genuine divine intervention, we'll never know for sure. But for Empress Alexandra, it was proof Rasputin was a man of God, a holy savior sent to protect her son. This single event forged an unbreakable bond between the Empress and the Siberian peasant. She became utterly dependent on him, believing that as long as Rasputin was near, her son and the dynasty would be safe. Her obsession grew, and with it, Rasputin's influence. From that moment on, Rasputin became a permanent fixture in the royal palace. He was no longer just a healer. He was the Empress's closest confidant and spiritual advisor. This uneducated peasant from Siberia was now at the center of imperial power, and the Russian nobility was absolutely scandalized. Rumors began to swirl like a blizzard. They called him the Mad Monk, though he was never officially a monk. Tales of his debauchery were whispered in every aristocratic salon in St. Petersburg. They spoke of wild parties, drunken orgies, and how he used his mystical aura to seduce noblemen, promising them spiritual cleansing. While many of these stories were likely exaggerated by his enemies, Rasputin did little to discourage them. He lived a life of excess, indulging in fine food, wine, and the company of his many female admirers. His influence didn't stop at palace scandals. With Tsar Nicholas II often away at the front lines during World War I, Empress Alexandra was left to manage domestic affairs. And who was her chief advisor? Rasputin. He began meddling in state matters, recommending his own unqualified cronies for powerful government positions and offering disastrous military advice. The Russian army was suffering catastrophic losses, and the people were starving. They needed a scapegoat, and Rasputin was the perfect target. The public began to believe that this dark, sinister figure was controlling the Empress, intentionally sabotaging the war effort, and leading Russia to its doom. The hatred for him, and by extension the royal family, reached a boiling point. The nobles decided he had to be stopped. By the winter of 1916, a group of aristocrats, led by the flamboyant Prince Felix Yusupov, hatched a plot to assassinate the Mad Monk. The plan was as dramatic as a theatrical play. Yusupov lured Rasputin to his palace under the pretense of meeting his beautiful wife. There, they served him cakes and wine laced with enough cyanide to kill several men. They watched in horror as Rasputin ate the poisoned cakes and drank the wine with no apparent effect. He just complained the wine was a bit sweet. In a panic, Yusupov pulled out a revolver and shot Rasputin in the chest. He collapsed, and the conspirators thought it was finally over. But as Yusupov leaned over the body, Rasputin's eyes snapped open. He lunged at the prince, roaring like an animal, before crawling out into the snowy courtyard. The conspirators chased him, firing more shots. He was hit again and again, but he kept moving. It was a true nightmare. Finally, they bludgeoned him into submission, bound his body, and threw him into the freezing waters of the Neva River. They were certain no one could survive that. Days later, when his body was pulled from the river, the autopsy revealed something chilling. Water was found in his lungs, meaning he was still alive and breathing when he was thrown into the river. Even more shockingly, it appeared he had managed to free one of his hands from the ropes, as if he was still fighting for his life under the ice. The legend of Rasputin's unholy survival was cemented forever. Rasputin had once prophesied, "If I die or you desert me, in 6 months you will lose your son and your throne." His death did not save the monarchy as the conspirators had hoped. Instead, it did the exact opposite. Without her holy man, Empress Alexandra spiraled into despair. The government, already in chaos, completely fell apart. The people's anger, once focused on Rasputin, now turned directly on the Tsar and his family. The assassination had removed a symptom, but the disease of public unrest had metastasized. Just a few months after Rasputin's murder, the Russian Revolution erupted. The Tsar was forced to abdicate, and the 300-year-old Romanov dynasty came to a fiery end. The following year, the entire royal family, including the young Alexei, was executed by the Bolsheviks. Rasputin's dark prophecy had come true. So, what do you think? Was Rasputin a supernatural being with unholy powers, or just a charismatic fraud who was in the right place at the right time? A genuine healer or a master manipulator? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you found this dive into mystic madness as fascinating as I did, give this video a like, and make sure to subscribe to All Nation History for more stories that history tried to forget. Thanks for watching.